All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to try something. Well, something a little ambitious.
I think ambitious is the right word for it, yeah.
We're going to attempt to completely rewire, and pun absolutely intended there, how you think about energy.
And we're not talking about, the energy drink you had this morning.
No, not the electricity in your walls,
Nah.
not the caffeine in your coffee, and definitely not that vague vibe you get when you walk into a room.
No, this is much more fundamental. We are talking about the actual biological battery pack, the engine that is right now keeping you alive.
Exactly. The thing that's making you breathe and think. We're talking about Kundalini.
Hmm.
Now, I have to be honest with you, right out of the gate, when I hear the word Kundalini, my brain, it immediately flashes to a very specific, maybe slightly cliched image.
I think I know the one.
Someone in white linen pants sitting in a cave somewhere, maybe they're levitating. Or it's some new age workshop where everyone is breathing a little too loudly. It feels fluffy. That's the word. It feels like a metaphor, not like a real mechanic.
That is the common perception, for sure. It's been wrapped in so many layers of mysticism that it makes it really hard for a pragmatic mind to even engage with it.
Yeah.
But the source material we're working with today, it is anything but fluffy. It's rigorous, it's incredibly mechanical, and honestly, it's a little bit scary if you don't know what you're doing.
Reading through it felt less like a spiritual text and more like an instruction manual for a nuclear reactor.
That is a very, very apt comparison. We are absolutely dealing with high voltage here.
So let's set the stage for everyone. The source for this deep dive comes from a figure who's known as the blind Muslim yogi. And before we even get into the nuts and bolts of the energy, the pipes, the wires, all of that, we have to establish who this person is.
Mhm.
Because his background is, well, it's not what I was expecting.
Not at all. And it creates a very different context for all the information that follows. We're not looking at a theoretical philosopher here. We're looking at a frontline practitioner.
A practitioner.
Yes. This is a bioenergy healer, but his specialization is what really makes him distinct. He focuses specifically on critical care, recovery, and terminal illnesses.
Right. So this isn't the guy you go to for a generic, chakra alignment because you're feeling a bit off on a Tuesday.
No, not at all. He is dealing with life and death scenarios. And the central claim, which we really need to unpack, is that he delivers this healing telepathically.
Okay, let's just pause on that.
Okay.
Because let's be real, that's a massive claim to make.
Yeah.
My skepticism radar went off the charts immediately.
Good.
Telepathy is usually the stuff of, comic books or charlatans.
It's a very heavy word, but he contextualizes it in a way that's grounded in his specific long-term experience. He makes it clear this is a unique service, not something your average energy healer can or should offer, simply because of the sheer risk and the energy cost to himself.
So it's not like he's just waving a wand.
No, he describes it as a direct transfer of vital force. And that takes a toll, and you have to look at the experience behind that claim. He has the resume to back up the confidence.
Okay, let's get into that.
We're talking about 50 years. 50 years of practicing advanced yoga meditation. Not just dabbling, but advanced deep practice.
And he's been teaching for almost as long.
For 46 years, yeah. And that duration matters so much. You don't do something for half a century without noticing patterns that other people are going to miss. He talks about an escalating capacity over those decades.
Like a muscle he's been training since the 1970s.
Exactly. And through that, he cites a success rate in these critical, often terminal cases, that is. Well, it's way beyond regular expectations. Definitely over 90%.
Which, in the world of terminal care, is statistically just wild.
It is. So our mission for this deep dive is to take that half century of data, all his observations from the trenches of critical care, and use it to correct the massive misconceptions that people have about Kundalini.
Okay.
We need to explain the plumbing of the energy body, and most importantly, we have to discuss why some people find bliss and higher intelligence, while other people have psychotic breaks or feel like they're literally burning from the inside out.
It's the difference between lighting up a bulb and completely frying the circuit board.
Precisely. And if you try to plug a 2,000-volt cable into a simple toaster, you don't get better toast. You get a kitchen fire.
Right. Okay, so let's get into the anatomy, because I think this is where most of us, myself included, get it completely wrong. We think of energy as this sort of cloud floating around us.
Like an aura.
Yeah, an aura. But the blind Muslim yogi, he lays out a map, a literal map of the spine.
He does. And this map is absolutely critical. If you don't understand the map, you cannot understand the symptoms. You're just guessing.
So walk us through it. What's the layout?
He breaks it down into 3 main channels, or as they're called in Sanskrit, nadis. Now, in traditional medical anatomy, you have the nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic.
Fight or flight and rest and digest.
Exactly. The nadis are kind of the subtle energy counterparts to that physical wiring. They're the conduits.
Okay, so 3 main conduits. Let's start with the one in the middle. Center stage.
That's the sushumna. Think of this as the main highway, the superhighway. It runs right up through the center of the spinal column.
And so this is the goal.
This is the target. In an ideal scenario, the scenario that yogis spend entire lifetimes trying to achieve, this is the path you want the energy to take. It's the path of least resistance.
So if the energy flows up the sushumna, that's the good outcome, the enlightenment and bliss part of the equation.
That's it, yes. If Kundalini rises cleanly through the sushumna, the result is what the old texts call samadhi, which is a state of bliss. It's total connection, clarity, perfect integration. There's no pain, there's no burning.
No, not.
Because it's like a superconductor. There's zero resistance. The energy flows perfectly.
Okay, so that's the goal. That's the superhighway. But then we have the side roads, the little service lanes. And this is where things get messy, right?
This is where everything gets naughty, to use the source's own terminology. You have 2 side channels, the Ida Nadi on the left and the Pingala Nadi on the right.
And this is the part of the research where I literally had to stop, put my notes down, and reread everything 3 times because I realized I had this completely backwards in my own head.
A lot of people do. It's a very common misunderstanding.
And we need to make a massive flashing neon sign correction here for our listeners. Because if you get this wrong, you misdiagnose everything.
We absolutely do. And we have to be very, very precise here because the source is adamant about this correlation. It's not a theory for him. It's a diagnostic tool.
Okay, lay it on me. Let's start with the left side, the Ida channel.
The Ida Nadi, the left channel. This corresponds to the moon. It's cooling in nature, it's considered feminine, and it governs the entire mental and emotional landscape.
Okay, so left is mental, left is moon. Cooling, got it.
Correct. Now, here is the danger. If your central channel, that main highway, the sushumna, is blocked.
Clogged up with stress or whatever.
Exactly. Clogged up with unresolved trauma, bad diet, lack of movement, all of it. If that channel is blocked and the energy starts to rise anyway, it have to go somewhere.
It's like a dammed river.
It is. It's going to take the path of least resistance. And if it forces its way up the left side, up the Ida channel, that is when you manifest psychological problems.
And this is the critical correction we need to hammer home. All psychological problems arise from a blockage that diverts energy to the left.
Yes. And we have to be clear, we are not talking about just feeling a little sad one day or having a minor mood swing.
The source describes this as the really heavy stuff, the life-altering stuff.
We're talking about deep, crippling depression. We're talking about old traumas surfacing with overwhelming intensity, severe anxiety, panic attacks, hallucinations, or even full-blown conditions that require serious psychiatric care.
A psychotic break.
Yes. The source is very, very clear. If you are spiraling mentally during any kind of spiritual practice, if you feel unstable, if you are terrified and losing your grip on reality, it is because the energy has diverted and is overloading the left channel.
It's interesting because usually when we think of energy, we think of being hyperactive, buzzing. But this sounds more like an implosion.
That is a perfect way to put it. It's a freezing, a stagnation of mental energy. It's getting stuck in the cold, dark, recursive loops of the mind.
Okay. Left equals mental and psychological, locked in. Now, what about the other side? The right side, Pingala.
The Pingala Nadi governs the physiological. It represents the sun. It's masculine, it's heating, and it's all about action in the physical world.
So if the left is the mind,
the right is the body. And if the energy gets blocked and diverted up the right channel, you manifest physiological problems.
And this is where all the stories of people burning come from.
This is exactly where they come from. The primary characteristic is extreme, unbearable heat. People report feeling like they are literally overheating from the inside out.
Is it like a fever? Can you measure it?
Not necessarily. It's not a fever you can check with a thermometer, but the subjective experience is of being consumed by an internal fire. It's agonizing.
And the source mentions other physical symptoms too, right? Like nausea, organ stress.
Oh, yes. Organ failure in extreme cases. Nausea, an inability to eat or digest food, chronic inflammation. It's the body's systems being completely overloaded with too much current.
It's like running too much electricity through a wire. The
Yeah.
wire gets hot. Eventually, the insulation just melts.
That is the right side, the Pingala overload, in a nutshell.
So just to recap this, because this is the most crucial diagnostic tool in the whole deep dive, left side issues are psychological. We're talking depression, trauma, psychosis.
Correct.
And right side issues are physiological heat, burning, inflammation, organ stress.
You've got it. And what's so fascinating is how he frames these symptoms not as random bad luck or some kind of spiritual test, but as precise technical feedback.
Data.
It's pure data. If you go to him and say, I feel like I'm on fire and I can't keep any food down, he knows instantly, okay, your blockage is diverting energy to the right.
And if you say, I'm hearing voices and I'm terrified all the time.
He knows it's the left. It takes all the mystery out of it. It's not that the spirits are angry or some other vague New Age explanation.
It's plumbing. The central pipe is clogged, so the water is bursting out the side pipes and flooding either the living room or the kitchen.
It is entirely mechanical. And that distinction is vital because the treatment or the cleaning method has to address that specific imbalance. Most people just say, oh, I'm having a bad Kundalini awakening, but they don't have the schematic to understand why it's bad.
I really appreciate that level of precision. It actually makes the whole concept less scary because it implies there's a logic to it and therefore a solution.
Exactly.
But this brings us to another huge myth that the source was really passionate about busting. And that's the idea of the sleeping snake.
Yes.
I feel like every book, every article I've ever seen on this topic says that Kundalini is dormant or asleep at the base of the spine, just waiting for us to wake it up.
And he completely rejects that vocabulary. He actually finds it almost ridiculous.
Yeah, his quote was pretty blunt. I think he did something like, if it was asleep, you would be dead.
It's a very logical argument. If you stop viewing Kundalini as some magical, separate entity and start seeing it as the biological life force itself, it is the battery. And if the battery is disconnected, the machine shuts down.
The lights go out.
The lights go out. So his argument is that Kundalini is operating in everyone right now as you're listening to this. It's just on low power mode.
Low power mode, like when my phone hits 10% and the screen automatically dims.
Roughly, yes, that's a good analogy. He estimates it operates at maybe 1% to 10% of its full capacity in the average person.
And that's just enough to...
Just enough to keep your heart beating, to keep your autonomic nervous system firing, to run all your basic bodily functions. You're essentially running on a trickle charge.
But he adds this fascinating detail about when it spikes naturally. And it's not when we're sitting down trying to meditate.
No, not at all. It spikes during deep sleep and during periods of illness.
That seems so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
When I'm sick, I feel like I have absolutely zero energy.
Consciously, you do. You feel drained. But physiologically, your body is working overtime. He argues that when you're in that deep, dreamless state of sleep, or when you are really sick, like bedridden with a severe flu, the Kundalini ramps up.
It takes over.
It takes over the system. Its job is to repair tissues, fight off pathogens, and heal the body.
That actually makes so much sense. You know when you have a terrible fever?
Yeah.
And you just drift into that strange, delirious sleep for 14 hours?
Yeah.
He's saying that's the Kundalini taking the wheel to do all the heavy lifting of repair.
Exactly. It is the raw force behind your immune system. It's the body's own regeneration engine.
Wow.
And this connects directly back to why he, as a healer, can do what he does. He describes this energy as being highly intelligent.
Intelligent energy. So it's not just dumb electricity that flows wherever there's a path. It has intent.
Think of it like stem cells, but on an energetic level. Stem cells know what kind of cell to become based on where they are needed in the body. He says this energy is the same. He doesn't have to manually tube the energy to a specific organ, like a mechanic fixing a carburetor.
So what does he do?
He directs this intelligent energy to the person, he says, via telepathy, and the energy itself finds a problem. It knows what's broken.
So he just sends the package, but the package knows its own address.
In a sense, yes. It scans the entire system and goes directly to the point of failure to begin repairs.
That is wild. But okay, let's pivot from that. If this energy is usually on low power mode, and it's good for us when it repairs us, what happens when we accidentally crank the dial up to 11 when we aren't sick? Because this was the part of the source material that actually made me look at my own phone differently.
Yes, the scrolling meditation. This is a uniquely modern problem.
I think this is going to hit home for a lot of our listeners. We tend to think of meditation as, sitting in a lotus position with incense and total silence. But the blind Muslim yogi argues we are meditating all the time, just on the wrong things.
He defines meditation in a purely mechanical sense as prolonged, single-pointed focus. The yogic term is dharana. It's simply the act of holding the mind steadily on one object.
And where do we spend hours and hours of single-pointed focus today?
Our screens, social media, the infinite scroll.
The doom scroll.
Exactly. He brings up a really unique perspective here. Being blind, he uses screen readers to navigate the digital world, and he mentions his own screen time is really high, like 12 to 13 hours a day of focused listening. But for the average sighted person just scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, that creates a state of fixed attention.
You know, you're right. When you're really in the hole scrolling, you don't blink as much. Your breathing gets really shallow. You completely lose track of time. You're in a trance.
You are. And the source argues that this is, technically speaking, a form of mindfulness. You are intensely and singularly involved in the stream of information, and this intense focus can actually act as a trigger.
A trigger for what?
It stirs the kundalini. It instigates it to rise from the base of the spine.
Wait a second. So you're telling me that me sitting on my couch, eating chips, watching highlight reels for 3 hours, is biologically signaling my body to wake up this dormant volcano?
Potentially, yes. Because attention is energy. Where your attention goes, energy flows. By locking your attention so fiercely and for so long, you are summoning that energy upwards. But, and this is the huge problem,
You haven't done any of the prep work.
none of it. You haven't done the yoga, you haven't done the breath work. Your nadis, those channels we talked about, are completely clogged with stress, processed food, lack of movement, and all your emotional baggage.
So the energy rises because of the intense focus. It hits a massive roadblock because of the modern lifestyle, and then, boom, it diverts.
It diverts, it hits the block, and it's forced to go. Left triggering that background anxiety, the depression, the mental instability we see so much of today, or it's forced to go right, causing chronic inflammation, burnout, and all sorts of physical stress syndromes.
He's basically suggesting that a lot of the modern mental health crisis, and maybe even some of the chronic physical ailments, might actually be symptoms of this mass, involuntary Kundalini awakening caused by digital overfocus.
It's a very compelling hypothesis, isn't it? We are constantly stimulating the engine without ever bothering to upgrade the chassis.
That's like trying to run a Ferrari engine in a rusted-out Ford Pinto from the 70s.
Or trying to run a massive electrical current through a wire that is way too thin and frayed. The wire melts. The system crashes.
That is genuinely terrifying. And it also explains a lot about why everyone feels so completely fried all the time.
Yeah.
But this isn't a new phenomenon, right? I mean, the botched awakening, we have historical precedents for what happens when this goes wrong.
Oh, we do. The source brings up the classic textbook case of Gopi Krishna.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
If you read anything at all about Kundalini history, Gopi Krishna is the name that always pops up.
Yeah.
He wrote a very famous book about his own experience back in the mid-20th century.
He did. And his experience was, by his own detailed account, an absolute nightmare for years. He describes incredible, agonizing burning, internal heat, feeling like he was being eaten alive by fire from the inside.
He couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, he thought he was going insane.
Exactly. And based on our map from earlier, the blind Muslim yogi can diagnose him instantly, even from decades away.
It's a right channel issue.
100%. The heat, the burning, the physical torment, that tells us unequivocally it was a massive right channel, or Pingala overload. And the source points out that Gopi Krishna himself admitted in his writings that he never practiced Hatha Yoga.
Hatha yoga being the physical postures, the asanas.
Yes, the physical side of things. Gopi Krishna was a meditator. He sat and he focused for hours and hours. He did the mental work. He absolutely stirred the energy, but he completely ignored the physical vessel. He didn't prepare or condition the body to be able to hold that massive electrical charge.
So he built the engine, but he completely forgot to install the cooling system.
That's a perfect way to put it. And this just validates the source's core insistence that this is a documented science. It's not random. It's repeatable. And to support this, we should look at the other references that were mandated for this deep dive, because they all align with this mechanical view perfectly.
Okay.
You have Swami Sivananda of the Divine Life Society in India.
A giant in the field. I feel like I've seen his books in every yoga studio I've ever walked into.
Absolutely. Swami Sivananda wrote extensively on the foundational understanding of Kundalini. And his central thesis, over and over again, was purity. You cannot put this powerful divine energy into an impure vessel.
What did he mean by impure?
He meant physical health, but also ethical purity. He emphasized that without discipline, without following the yamas and niyamas, the ethical codes of conduct, and without robust physical health, Kundalini becomes a destroyer rather than a liberator.
So Gopi Krishna is the case study for the physical breakdown. What about the mental side?
For that, we can look at a more contemporary figure, Dr. Bonnie Greenwell. She was a transpersonal psychologist,
Okay.
and she wrote extensively about what she called the spiritual crisis. She documented in great detail the psychological turmoil, the left channel issues, if you will, that happen when Westerners in particular try to awaken this energy without the proper context or preparation.
So she was cataloging the anxiety, the dissociation.
The confusion, the terror, the feeling of going mad, all the classic symptoms of a left channel Ida overload.
So we have Sivananda giving the ancient foundational warning. We have Gopi Krishna serving as the poster child for right side burning. And then we have Dr. Greenwell documenting the modern left side psychological breakdown.
Exactly. These references aren't just random name drops. They form a perfect triangulation of evidence. They all point to the exact same truth that our source, the blind Muslim yogi, is teaching. This is a biological mechanism with very specific rules, and if you break the rules, you get burned. Or you go mad.
Okay, that is sufficiently ominous. I think we have probably scared the listeners enough for one segment. Let's talk about the solution, because I don't want to leave people terrified of their own nervous systems.
No, the solution is actually the most empowering part of this.
The source says the answer isn't to try and awaken the Kundalini, which seems to be the risky part. The answer is just to clean the pipes.
Preparation is everything. That is his entire thesis. He says you don't even need to try to raise the energy. It wants to rise. It's naturally buoyant like a cork in water.
So you just have to get out of its way.
You just have to clear the path. If you clean the nadis, the energy rises naturally, safely, and beautifully because the path is finally open. It's just fluid dynamics.
So how do we do it? How do we clear the pipes? He gives us a very specific technique, and it's something anyone listening can do right now.
He does. It's pranayama. Specifically, alternate nostril breathing, or as it's known in Sanskrit, annulum valum.
I've definitely tried this in yoga classes. You hold one nostril closed with your thumb, you breathe in, you switch fingers, you breathe out the other side. It feels a bit, it feels a bit simple.
It seems simple on the surface.
Yeah, like can breathing through one hole at a time really fix my deep-seated psychological trauma?
The mechanics are actually profound, especially when you think about the energy channels. Remember, we have the Ida on the left and the Pingala on the right. These two primary channels terminate in the nostrils.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes. The left nostril is the endpoint of the Ida channel, which connects to the right brain, the cooling system. The right nostril is the endpoint of the Pingala channel, which connects to the left brain, the heating system.
So by physically alternating the breath between the nostrils, you are literally, manually alternating which circuit in your body you are activating.
Precisely. You are manually balancing the hemispheres of the brain, and by extension, the two primary energy channels of the body. Alternate nostril breathing systematically isolates and flushes these two side channels.
It's like running a pipe cleaner through the left pipe, then running it through the right pipe over and over again.
That's exactly what it is. He describes it as flushing out the dirt, or the blockages, which are essentially just accumulated stress, toxins, and unprocessed emotional energy.
So you do this consistently and the dirt clears out.
The dirt clears. When the side channels are clear, the pressure between them equalizes. And when the pressure is perfectly equal, the energy can finally find the path of no resistance, which is right up the center, the sushumna.
It's balancing the pressure so the main flow can go straight up the middle. I like that visual.
Yeah.
But he doesn't stop at breathing. And this is the part I really loved, because it felt so practical and down to earth. He says, go to the gym.
Yes. This is a controversial take in some of the more pure spiritual circles, but he's absolutely adamant about it. Physical fitness is a form of yoga.
And he's not talking about gentle restorative stretching. He's talking about weightlifting, jogging, martial arts.
No, he's talking about real exertion. He says these kinds of intense physical activities act as powerful unblocking mechanisms. They literally force energy through the system.
How does that work?
Think about hydraulic pressure. If you are sedentary all day, the channels stagnate. The water in the pipes just sits there and gets murky and gross. But if you are moving, lifting heavy things, running, you are mechanically pumping that fluid through the system at high pressure. keeping the pathways open and robust.
He even dropped a mention of Joe Rogan in here, which I thought was a hilarious but really interesting crossover.
It was a fascinating hypothesis, wasn't it? He notes that someone like Joe Rogan experiments quite openly with psychedelics, DMT, mushrooms, and so on.
Which are, by this definition, intense high-voltage energy experiences. They forcibly throw open all the valves.
They do, and usually that's incredibly risky. That's how people get fried and end up with long-term psychological issues.
But Rogan seems to handle it. He doesn't seem to suffer the bad trips or the lingering psychosis that you hear about from other people.
Right. And the blind Muslim yogi hypothesizes that this is because of Rogan's incredibly intense and consistent physical regimen. The heavy weightlifting, the martial arts, the ice baths, the sauna.
He's basically built an industrial-grade container for the energy. He's built a tank.
Exactly. His energy channels are so clear and his physical vessel is so robust from decades of this work that his body can actually handle those high-voltage experiences without blowing a fuse. The energy can flow through him because there are no major blockages to snag on and cause a short circuit.
So the message is, if you want to be truly spiritual, maybe you should skip the incense for a day and go do some deadlifts instead.
Or at least do the deadlifts in addition to the incense. He emphasizes balance above all else. And he mentions one more pillar of preparation, intellectual study.
Right. Reading deep philosophy or studying a complex subject, this isn't just about being smart, is it?
No, it's about the anatomy of energy again. He says that Kundalini, when it reaches the head, takes the form of something called Udana Vayu. In the yogic system, there are 5 Vayus, or winds, that govern different movements of energy in the body. Udana Vayu is the upward-moving energy associated with speech, expression, and thought.
So by thinking really hard, you're actually exercising that specific type of energy.
By engaging in deep, complex study, whether it's philosophy or theology, or studying for a difficult university degree, you are processing and exercising that energy in the upper centers. You're giving the energy a constructive job to do.
What happens if you don't?
If you have all this energy rising into your head, but you're just, watching reality TV and scrolling social media, it stagnates. It has nowhere to go. If you give it complex problems to solve, it circulates and strengthens the mental faculties.
So the full protocol is breathe through alternate nostrils to balance the left and right sides, lift heavy things to flush the whole system, and read smart books to exercise the mind at the top.
A balanced life? It sounds almost ridiculously normal, doesn't it? But that's the secret. The big esoteric secret is actually just extreme holistic balance.
I love that. Now, let's talk about the payoff. Because if you do this work, if you actually clean the pipes, it's not just about avoiding a psychotic break. That's just the baseline of not getting hurt. But he talks about some serious performance enhancements.
This is where we move beyond just healing and into what you could call life enhancement. If your system is running at 100% efficiency instead of 10%, literally everything works better. He shares this great anecdote of a professional fighter he worked with, a man named David.
Yeah, tell us about David.
So David is a pro fighter. He's already an elite athlete, but he's hit a plateau. He can do 120 push-ups in a single set, but then he just gasses out. He hits a hard wall.
Which, for the record, is already a ridiculous number of push-ups.
It is. But for a professional at his level, he needed more. So the healer intervenes. He telepathically unblocks David's chakras and teaches him the specific breathwork protocols.
And the result of this?
In just 14 days, 2 weeks, his capacity went from 120 reps to 200 reps.
Get out of here. That is a massive jump. That's almost doubling your output in 2 weeks. Usually, professional athletes will fight tooth and nail for a 1 or 2% gain over an entire season.
Exactly. And the source attributes this to fuel efficiency. If your chakras, your energy centers, are blocked, your body is literally fighting itself just to move energy. It's creating internal friction. You're wasting a huge amount of energy just trying to get the signal from the brain to the muscle.
And block them.
And the energy flows without any resistance. Suddenly, you have all this extra power available for the actual work.
It's like you've been driving your whole life with the parking brake on and didn't even realize it.
That's a perfect analogy. And he also touched on something that I think everyone at some point wants a piece of: luck. Or more specifically, success in relationships.
The magnetism effect.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I rolled my eyes a little bit at first when I read this part, but break down the logic for me.
The theory is that balancing your internal energy makes you externally magnetic to other people. It changes the signal you're broadcasting. He told the story of a 38-year-old man and a 32-year-old woman, both of whom came to him separately.
And they were both struggling to find partners.
Yes, they felt chronically unlucky in love. We all know people like that. They seem to try hard, but for some reason it just never clicks for them.
So what did he have them do?
He put them on his basic protocol, just 20 to 30 minutes a day of the breathing exercises and some basic physical work.
Don't leave me hanging.
Both of them found their soulmates and were married within a few months.
Come on. That sounds like something from a late-night infomercial. Breathe through your nose, get a wedding ring.
I know it does sound like magic, but let's look at the biological signaling behind it. If you are anxious, burnt out, and your energy is constantly spilling out the left side as depression or out the right side as anger and heat, what are you projecting to the world?
Desperation, instability, neediness, stress.
Exactly. You are broadcasting a signal that says, I am not okay. I am a resource drain. Now, what happens if you balance your energy, if you are centered and calm in the sushumna?
You'd project stability, vitality, calmness, power.
Right. And that is biologically attractive. At a primal level, humans are wired to seek stable, high-energy mates. It's not magic, it's just signal transmission. You're fixing your broadcast signal.
That's a great way to put it. You're moving from grainy static to a clear, high-definition broadcast of who you are.
And finally, brain function. We touched on this a bit with the intellectual study aspect, but he says that raising the Kundalini properly actually fills a subtle center in the brain, something Gopi Krishna also described in his writing.
The Brahmarandra, the cavity of Brahma.
Yes. He argues that when the energy reaches and fills the center in a balanced way, it unlocks higher intelligence, enhanced memory, and most importantly, nuance.
Nuance.
You stop seeing the world in a binary black and white way. You gain the capacity for complex, layered thought. In a world that's dominated by tweet-sized opinions and polarized arguing, that might be the greatest superpower of all.
Absolutely. Just the ability to hold two opposing thoughts in your head at the same time without losing your mind.
That is the mark of a truly awakened intelligence.
Now, before we wrap this all up, we really need to talk about the man himself one more time, because his specific approach is very distinct, and he gives a very stern warning about his own work. He is not encouraging everyone to go out and try to become a telepathic healer.
He is definitely not. He wants to draw a very thick, clear line between what he does and the more common weekend workshop style of energy healing.
Because he works with terminal illness and critical care.
He's the ER surgeon of the energy world, not the family doctor.
And he was very clear about the cost. Not just the financial cost, but the energetic cost to himself.
Right. He literally says, I am risking my life when he does this work. And that sounds dramatic, but he explains that when he connects telepathically to someone who is actively dying, someone with stage 4 cancer or multiple organ failure, he is linking his life force directly to theirs to try and jumpstart their system.
He's pouring his battery into their nearly empty one.
It's a literal transfer. And that drains him profoundly. He says he has to practice 8 to 10 hours every single day just to sharpen the sword and replenish his own reserves so he can do this work without killing himself.
That's the level of dedication that's required. He's not dabbling. He is an Olympian of energy work.
And that is why his services are so exclusive and why he specifically directs people to his website, which is yogawellness786.com, only if they are in those absolute critical life or death situations. He is very, very specific about that.
And for everyone else, for the people who just want to feel better or improve their life or avoid the scrolling trap.
For them, he says, do the work yourself, do the breathing, go to the gym, read a book.
I have a lot of respect for that. He's not trying to upsell you a $1,000 course. He's telling you to go for a jog and breathe properly.
Precisely. He's empowering you to fix your own plumbing.
So let's try and unpack all of this. What does this really mean for us, for the average person listening?
I think it means we have to start respecting our own biology. We are fundamentally high-voltage machines, but we're living in a way that clogs all our circuits. We are overstimulating our attention with screens while simultaneously understimulating our bodies with movement.
It's the worst of both worlds.
It is. The big practical takeaway has to be the diagnostics. If you are feeling emotionally unstable, crying all the time, depressed, your left channel is overloaded. If you are feeling physically burnt out, constantly hot, angry, inflamed, your right channel is overloaded.
And the fix, no matter which side is the problem, is universal. Clear the center path.
Clear the center path. Alternate nostril breathing to balance the sides. Physical exercise to flush the whole system. And deep intellectual engagement to regulate the flow at the top.
It's just a prescription for a healthy, balanced life. even if you never, ever care about enlightenment or chakras or any of it.
Exactly. You don't have to be a yogi in a cave. You just have to be a human being who takes proper care of their own battery pack.
So, here is a final provocative thought for you to chew on today. We talk about how scrolling social media is a form of accidental, high-focus meditation that can trigger this powerful energy involuntarily.
Yes.
So if billions of people are glued to their screens, locking their attention for hours and hours every single day, effectively stirring the snake without doing any of the physical or mental prep work, are we currently living through a mass, collective, and completely botched Kundalini awakening? And is that why the world feels just a little bit crazy right now?
That is a terrifying and profound question. If all that energy is rising and we have absolutely nowhere to put it, the inevitable result is chaos, both internal and external.
Something to think about next time you find yourself doom scrolling at 2 in the morning. If you are in one of those critical situations and you need that advanced level of help, again, the website is yokawellness786.com. For the rest of us, maybe put the phone down and go do some push-ups.
And breathe.
And breathe. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.